overview of crisis counseling, trauma care, and disaster mental health counseling. Counseling 6323, Dr. Nicoline Hubert, counseling psychologist. The terms crisis, trauma, and disaster are used to describe situations that overwhelm somebody's coping mechanisms. Everyone experiences crisis at some point in their life. It may be caused by a personal situation, such as the loss of a loved one, or a work-related event, for example, a job loss or retirement. It can also be caused by a nationwide disaster, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. In this course, we look at psychological, theoretical models and interventions, as well as Christian psychological approaches to crises, trauma, and disaster management. You will have the opportunity to expand and apply your theoretical and practical application knowledge by analyzing and discussing case studies, as well as doing your own research. Crisis response, trauma care, and disaster management each delineate a specific terrain in crisis and trauma counseling. Crisis is defined as a time of intense difficulty or danger that overwhelms the person's coping mechanisms. Trauma is defined as a long-term, intense, highly stressful and threatening situation that endangers one's life or integrity. Disasters refer to collective trauma experienced by a large group of people. It involves loss of lives, property, displacement of people, and requires large-scale interventions by several organizations and government sectors. Typical responses to crisis, trauma, and disasters include the following: emotional responses, shock or denial, anger, hopelessness, depression, fear, anxiety, mood changes, guilt, and grief. Behavioral responses include changes in activity level, withdrawal, restlessness, appetite changes, insomnia, increased use of alcohol, and the inability to relax. Cognitive responses include forgetfulness, difficulty in making decisions, confusion, flashbacks, and self-doubt. And physical responses include fatigue, loss of energy, headaches, trembling, dizziness, rapid heartbeat, and sweating or chills. The purpose of interventions is to calm and ground the victim, instill a sense of hope, and help the person make critical decisions and give guidance about the way forward. Crisis interventions are short-term, practical, and focused on helping the victim deal with the immediate situation. Trauma interventions focus on past trauma and how it affects the bio-psycho-socio-spiritual functioning of the survivor. Christian trauma care models include approaches to heal traumatic memories by means of prayer. A distinctively Christian approach to trauma has been developed by COUN, a Christian psychologist. He developed a 7-step model for inner healing prayer that emphasized the work of the Holy Spirit in counseling. These steps are the following. I'm briefly describing them. Pray for protection from evil and ask the Holy Spirit to take control of the session. Guide the client into a relaxed state by using brief relaxation strategies. Guide the client to focus on a painful past event or traumatic experience and to feel deeply the pain. Prayerfully ask the Lord, by the power of the Holy Spirit, to come to the client and minister His comfort, love, and healing grace. Wait quietly on the Lord to minister to the client with His healing grace and truth. Ask gently, what are you feeling? What's happening? To track with the client. Close in prayer. Debrief and discuss the process. Disaster management and COVID-19. COVID-19 started at the end of December 2019 as cases of pneumonia of an unknown origin. These cases were found in Wuhan, a city in the Hubei province of China. The Chinese government informed the World Health Organization on the 31st of December 2019 about these cases of unknown pneumonia. The cases increased quickly and spread through other regions of China and globally. This led to what the World Health Organization eventually defined on 11th March 2020 as a global pandemic, and it developed into a public health emergency in less than 4 months. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a ripple effect throughout the world since being declared a pandemic. The consequences are still taking place as the pandemic has not ended. It is defined as a collective trauma, and it has affected most countries on many levels, from the individual to social groups and to governments. Meaning-making is an important psychosocial spiritual process required to make sense out of trauma, build resilience, and move forward. Biblical narratives of collective trauma in ancient Israel could be juxtaposed with our current experience of COVID-19 to provide meaning-making language that could help us overcome the challenges of the pandemic as a mass trauma. An example of a biblical narrative and meaning-making language situation is the fall of Jerusalem. Lamentations 1-2 describe the fall of Jerusalem and the collective grief response by the ancient Israelites. The voices in these two chapters express shock, grief, tears, humiliation, and isolation. Disaster survivors worldwide will be able to identify with these emotions. The narrators in these chapters and chapter 3 also enter into a dialogue with God in their quest to find answers to their collective grief. The search for meaning is evident in chapter 3, and the conversation with God an attempt to find meaning. Although God does not answer all their questions, they feel free to voice their confusion and to explore potential meaning in the calamity. Meaning is found in the hope and belief that God is almighty and just, and it is expressed in Lamentations chapter 3. The narrator is confident that God will not forget them and He will restore them. Lamentations 3 verse 24. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will have hope in Him. The conclusion is that we have hope in the Lord, no matter how big the crisis or devastating the disaster. I thank you.